Hello everybody, San here, engineer, MBA, and investor. And in today's video, I want to talk about the additional funding that Prime Medicine just got from a press release that was published from the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. This is not the first time they're getting some sort of funding from this foundation, and I want to talk about this press release and kind of correlate with the bigger thesis that I have for CRISPR companies. So let's jump right into it, guys. So again, published July 16, that was yesterday, guys. Prime Medicine, and I quote, Prime Medicine announces additional funding of up to $24 million from the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation to advance prime editing treatment for CF. End of quote. And I quote again, expanded funding builds on the initial agreement to accelerate development for prime editors for CF. Prime Medicine to receive up to $24 million in additional funding from CF Foundation. Multiple hotspot prime editors may benefit more than 93% of people with CF. So, and I'm mentioning CF there because it's just easier to pronounce, guys. So CF, obviously, it's a known serious genetic disease that have been around for many, many years, decades. People know about it. I remember when there were a bunch of movement against, not against, but for supporting foundations that go and try to cure CF. In different populations of the world. This is not something new. This disease has been known for many, many years. And obviously, Prime Medicine, one of their big selling point is that their prime editors can come in and potentially cure this genetic disease. And obviously, the foundation here have given money to Prime Medicine in the past. This is nothing new, but with the additional funding here, obviously, they want to double down and help out Prime Medicine because it's a win-win for obviously everybody, not just for Prime Medicine, but obviously for patients, right? And the foundation is all about curing patients, right? Or trying to cure patients in the US and different regions around the world. So pretty good. I do want to mention though, because I think it's important to understand the scale of this funding. Now it's up to $24 million. They're not getting $24 million up front. They're actually getting, $6 million in the first tranche. Okay, and there's kind of like an up to $24 million, right? So that's basically what it is. And again, there's closing condition, there's scientific milestones. So it's not like they're getting $24 million up front. Not that most people that read these press releases expect that, but I just want to make sure we clarify that it's up to $24 million. And actually, if you put it in a grander, if you step back and look at the grander vision here on this type of announcement, $24 million is not even half of Prime Medicine operating expense in a single quarter. It's barely hitting like 40-ish% of their quarterly expenses, which again, it's not even $24 million upfront that they're getting. So look, it's a good press release. It's great for the space, CRISPR space. It's great for Prime Medicine, great for shareholders. It's good for the company itself. Obviously, they're getting great PR. The CF Foundation is a well-known foundation. This is not a random foundation that's just came up in the news here. People know about this foundation. It's been mentioned many times in the news in the past. So it is good PR, good marketing, and obviously good chunk of change. But it's basically that. It's a chunk of change, right? So I want to make sure we understand here the big picture here. And speaking of big picture, I kind of wanted here to talk about the big picture, which is basically what this video is all about and how I titled this video, is that CRISPR needs more partnerships from Big Pharma. I think Big Pharma are the only companies or only organizations, I should say, that can give a lot of money upfront. I mean, $24 million from a foundation is obviously a lot of money from the foundation, but it's not a lot of money for Prime Medicine. We just made a comment on that. Now, if you convert that 24 million to 240 million or even $1 billion, now obviously things change. That conversation changes really quickly. And I think the only organizations out there that can do that for CRISPR companies are big pharma companies, for reasons that, I could go in a rabbit hole with. But in short, they have money, right? They obviously have a lot of money. Big pharma companies have money. They have money in their balance sheets. They have recurring revenues from years and decades of obviously selling their products, their drugs, their therapies, their all everything that big pharma have been doing, and obviously they spend a lot of money on ads in the U.S. For a reason, right? Because they have the money, and because they have the money, this is what this video is all about. I think CRISPR companies need more partnerships from big pharma. Now, there are already some partnerships out there, right? You have CRISPR Therapeutics with Vertex. Obviously, we all know about that partnership. We also know about NTLA with Regeneron. That's a great partnership they have. And of course, we have Beam. They have their own partnerships as well with big pharma in the past. So it's not like big pharma companies have not partnered with CRISPR companies in the past, right? I mean, you just saw Verve being sold for $1+ billion. That's a big partnership. Now, that's not the type of partnership I'm referencing. I do want to mention that. My partnership statement is more like what Vertex has done with CRISPR Therapeutics, which is let's own 50-50. Here's the upfront cash. Here's the cash that we're going to give you if you hit the milestones, and of course with FDA and regulatory approvals in the future. And then maybe a couple of years later, they get more data, they get more comfortable, they understand the technology, it's really working out, the thesis is playing out, the shareholders are getting more interested. Let's own an additional 10%. So now we own 60% of that CAS-JV program. You guys own 40%, but here's $1+ billion upfront again. So you see, that's the type of partnership that I'm talking about. And I understand the argument a lot of people watching our videos, I was having this conversation with Gene Investing with Anthony. If you guys remember in the interview, he said that, NTLA doesn't need to give up their 100% wholly owned program because, they can scale that program. They can fully own the profits, the commercial profits. And look, I don't disagree with that. I understand that piece. But people, and that's kind of what I think I told them, or maybe I missed that opportunity to explain my thesis around it, and hopefully I can do that in this video, is that CRISPR is still early. We're still very early in the space. And when I mean early, I mean there will be a time, again, not financial advice, and I don't have any inside information, but there will be a time where there'll be 10, 20, 30 CRISPR companies with FDA-approved programs. And when I mean CRISPR companies, it could be Vertex. Vertex is technically a CRISPR company at this point, right? If you understand what I mean by being a CRISPR company, either directly or indirectly, right? So there will come a time where there'll be like 15, 20, 30 CRISPR programs approved by different regulatory bodies around the world. Right now we only have CAS-JV with sickle cell disease and beta thalassemia. So we're way early. And by being early, that also introduces a lot of risk. And I think for companies like NTLA, again, data's been amazing for HAE or ATTR, but you kind of want to offset that risk by giving up a couple of percentage. And of course, we're not just talking about 10 to 20%. Big pharma companies are looking for a lot more than that. Vertex asked for 50% initially, or whatever that figure was at the beginning. So you want to give up 50%, but obviously rack in a lot more than just 200 or 400 million. I'm talking about $1+ billion. I would argue now with everything that's been happening with Verve selling for $1+ billion, with that private company selling to AbbVie for 2 point something billion, with barely having any phase 1A trial data, I would argue NTLA could sell 50% of their wholly owned program for $1.5 or $2 billion, right? And again, with that cash, it's not just about, holding on that cash and just like offsetting your risk. And if anything goes bad, at least you have cash in the balance sheet to work on a new program. No, you actually reinvest a bunch of that cash in other programs. And of course, you double down on the things you have going for you. And obviously that means hiring more people, more engineers, or rather scientists. It's obviously, creating more marketing and administration materials, going to more conferences, and obviously having cash in the balance sheet is big for investors. I mean, investors are looking at NTLA. NTLA has zero debt. They have almost $800 million in cash. What if that $800 million in cash becomes $2 billion plus? Obviously, their valuation increases significantly from the figure they're at right now. They're barely at 1.5 billion, I believe. Obviously, that could go to 3 billion. They could barely 2x their stock, which is great for shareholders and, of course, great for their own employees and leadership, who obviously have vested interests due to having stocks in the company. So, and options. And so this is what I'm kind of like alluding to. I think there's a win-win for everybody here with Big Pharma entering in, the CRISPR landscape by these types of partnerships I'm alluding. Now, it's easy for me to say that, and it's a lot harder to execute, and maybe these companies have already tried it. They didn't garnish a lot of attention, or rather the deals weren't that attractive, and I'd like to believe that, right? I like to think that. Now, that only solidifies my thesis about CRISPR long term, because I think CRISPR is here to stay, and I think CRISPR, as days go by, weeks go by, months go by, it's becoming a lot more mainstream, and it's getting a lot more attention by different folks in the mainstream media, right? Whether that's legacy media, whether that's podcasters, whether that's technology companies, whether that's like literally Grok 4 being used in CRISPR research. I mean, that is obviously a huge booster for the space. So I think, again, if we don't have inside information, I'm kind of speculating here, but if NTLA did try to sell their whole 100% wholly owned program and they didn't get an attractive deal, then maybe they'll try again in a couple of months or a year when they get even more data, now with phase 3, for example, and then they can even sell it at an even larger premium. So to me, I think this is the way to go. I really think this is going to happen. It's already been happening, so it's not like I'm saying something that's completely a hot take here. This is something that I think it's kind of common here in this space, especially for early stage companies. And when I mean early stage companies, again, CRISPR is still early, guys. We are very early. I want to remind viewers, we're very early. Just because you have Casgevy approved does not mean we're past the early stage. We're very early. The vision I have for CRISPR, and I think for a lot of people in this space, is that, again, 20, 30 FDA approved CRISPR programs. That's the stage we're talking about, maturity. Before then, until then, I think it's all about these partnerships, getting more data, and obviously working on other programs, and obviously becoming this platform. Every of these companies, Beam Therapeutics, Prime Medicine, NTLA, CRISPR Therapeutics, each of them become their own platform with their own edits technology that they can license out and then kind of generate recurring revenue long term by different programs, right? I think that's the vision I have, and I would argue that's the vision a lot of these leaderships have said in the past, indirectly or directly, right? We know Beam Therapeutics we've been trying to do that for many years, and they've done it successfully. I mean, look at Verve selling for 1 billion, and they licensed their technology out of Beam. So Beam wins in the end, right? Regardless what happens with the sale. So look, guys, that's what I want to talk about. Again, congratulations to Prime Medicine getting a good chunk of change here, but it is just a chunk of change. We need to think big picture here. CRISPR companies with Big Pharma partnerships. We need more of it. I'm hoping we get more of it. If anybody has any sort of indication or been reading something or been following these Big Pharma companies, please let me know in the comments below, guys. I want to hear from you guys. Let me know. Subscribe if you haven't, guys. Please do subscribe. We need more subscribers. Subscription growth has been a little bit slow. Let's get more subscription, guys. Like this video, guys. If you like this video, our videos get on people's homepage, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you.